My name is Casey Burkholder, and Jennifer Thompson and I recently edited a book with Routledge called Fieldnotes in Qualitative Education and Social Science Research: Approaches, Practices, and Ethical Considerations. Today, Jen and I are going to talk with Dr. LaShaune Johnson, an associate professor at Creighton University, about her amazing chapter, Moves Like Honey, Activating Field Notes for Building Cultural Health Capital. LaShaune uses Beyonce as a central theorist in the chapter, and her thoughtful chapter and critical scholarship are community embedded and focused on health disparities for Black women navigating the cancer continuum in the US.
So LaShaune, first question. Can you talk about how you take or make field notes?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm kind of old school in that I typically do use a grounded theory approach, and I'm doing just a little notebook like this one here, where I'm taking handwritten notes in the field as I go along. And for me, the most valuable places for field notes when I'm out at a community event or I'm working on a project are often in those kind of unceremonial kinds of moments when you're standing in the queue waiting for food and folks are talking about the latest gossip and what's going on. I really pay attention about the intentionality of the opening prayers that happen at a lot of my events, because they often happen at churches. What are they praying for? Who are they praying for? What they hope the outcome will be, because it tells a lot about their hopes and dreams and what they think happens with cancer. And I think also I often will then go home and try to do a little more memoing after that, after sort of looking at the notes, all the little scribbles I've made. Sometimes I do that by hand, and I've tried to move into this century and do them with my iPad, but it's still take a little bit of work. But I definitely use just some of the more traditional kind of handwriting kinds of methods for making my notes.
So what does your chapter tell us about field notes?
So my chapter is about the evolution of my notes. I'm a social scientist who teaches in a non-social science program. I'm in public health. And so my chapter is about my journey from using my notes in a more traditional way that a sociologist would to in a way that is both in service but also pushing forward public health. And for me, that always seems like a little bit of a dance in terms of thinking about who I'm working with and how I'm talking about my work. So that's why Beyonce was so important to me when writing this chapter, that she offered me an opportunity to talk about both traditional notes, thinking about notes for serving the communities that I was working in partnership with, then moving to using these notes to help me think about forming some public health education around some of the issues of cancer that we were talking about. And then finally, at the end, I talk about how my notes and my note-taking and my conversations have really pushed me forward to thinking about policy and what the observations I've made about the bumps along the road that folks were talking about, both in the formal and informal spaces of the project. What broader systematic issues were they really addressing? What structural discussions that we need to have, and who needed to come into that conversation, partly influenced by my notes, to help me think about how we make those changes.
And the third question, what do you think researchers need to know about field notes?
One of the things I think researchers should know is that field notes are gold. I think often we don't think about them as a product of their own. We think, oh, well, I've got them, but the real product is the paper that I write. And like I said, with my journey, they actually became the thing that helped me decide to start a health promotion group, that helped me decide to stay in public health and work on policy. There's so much about the notes that you can use in lots of different parts of your life. And I think in partnership with the groups that you study, often they don't have anyone sort of formally taking these notes at their meetings to help them move forward some of their agenda. Sometimes they also have bigger aspirations that your notes can kind of help them highlight folks that they might want to talk to or systems they want to get engaged with. But also I think for me, they've also been helpful in my conversations with providers who are working with these underserved populations about what are some of the practical everyday challenges that they're facing that they ought to ask about as they're working with folks and as they walk into the door that they might not think to ask about, like transportation or childcare. So for me, they have so many meanings beyond the original research question, and it just takes some time sort of going through them and going through them again, sometimes with the distance of time, and then you start to see what these other stories are that can emerge from your field notes.
They're like this really great multifaceted thing.
Right.
That have so many potentialities. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.